Hello everyone, so it's 11th of February, which means that today the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction Longlist was announced, and this is very exciting. It's one of my favorite prizes. I read the shortlist every year. I am using also this prize as my award and non-fiction sources for the HRCYED challenge, and if you don't know what the HRCYED challenge is, I will link my playlist down below, but basically it's a challenge that goes throughout the year, and there are different squares in a bingo board and you're supposed to cover all of them. And yeah, one of them is reading award-winning books, and the other one, or long-listed, shortlisted, and the other one is to read 5 non-fiction books of different types of non-fiction. So yeah, my plan is to use all of the books from the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction to fulfill both of those prompts. I have to say, when I first saw the list, I was going through the books and I was starting to be a bit disappointed, because normally there are a lot of books that sound interesting to me, and at first I thought it was not going to be the case, but it was just a fluke. The way that the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction website is organized, the first 5 books that show up, I think it's in alphabetical order or something like that. The first 5 books that showed up, I only was interested in one, and I was like, oh no, and then I was interested in every single book after that. So we are good. We do have quite a few books that I'm interested in, and I'm just going to quickly run through the books in the list to just let you know my first thoughts about them. So the first one in my webpage is Hotel Exile, Paris in the Shadow of War by Jen Rogoyska. And this is supposed to be documenting this place in Paris that was like a bohemian hotspot, and all the like different people that were there, and the different resistance movements that were there. This is not particularly interesting to me. It sounds very like these books about different bohemian movements and stuff sound like something you have to be interested like in the group and in the knowledge to enjoy, and I'm not that kind of person. I like to know about the historical events, but I don't really care about how the different people in history were connected, like the writer movements and stuff. I don't really care that much about that, and this has that vibe, so I was not super into that. The next one is Don't Let It Break You, Honey, a memoir about saving yourself by Jenny Evans. And this says, casting a cult film at the age of 18, Jenny Evans was on the cusp of something extraordinary, and then things happened to her, and it was not what she thought it was gonna be, her life. Depending on how she writes, could be good, but I'm not super interested in like famous people, and this kind of sounds, I don't think she's super famous, but it doesn't sound like something that I'm into, like films and all of that. Again, kind of artsy. The next one is Art Cure, the science of how the arts transform our health. This could be interesting. I think it could sound like something that I'm interested in. I'm a little bit hesitant again, because I don't like books about art, as in about artists, so much. So I don't know if I will like this, but this sounds a little bit more sciencey than that, so it has the potential to be interesting. I think I will watch reviews and maybe try to find this in some platform in which I don't have to buy the book, just to try it out. But yeah, this is like not sure. Then the next one is Nation of Strangers, Rebuilding Home in the 21st Century by S. Temel Kuran. And this is interesting. This one is the first one that I saw that I was like, okay, this actually sounds interesting. It's kind of about the meaning of home, what it means to be home, what happens when people don't have home because there is oppression and there is displacement and all of that. And yeah, I think this sounds interesting. With that said, this, I think it's only in hardback so far. It's one of those that it's kind of not out yet, or it's recently out, so it's still very expensive. and not in the library or anything, so I think I will wait a little bit for that one, not because I don't want to read it, but because I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to get my hands on. Then the next one is Finding Albion, Myth, Folklore and the Quest for a Hidden Britain by Sakia Sewell. This also not particularly interested in, just because I mean it could be interesting, but again this follows in a bit of in the kind of thing that could be very pretentious and also focus on Britain, which I think this will be more interesting in a more global sense than just this one thing. So again, it could be interesting, and if it's in the shortlist I'll read it, but I think it's a little bit too niche and not a niche that I'm interested in for me. Same with the next one, Artists, Siblings, Visionaries, The Lives and Loves of Gwen and Augustus John by Judith Mackrell. Not super into artist books, and biographies like this don't appeal to me, and I don't know who these people are, so this doesn't sound like a thing I will enjoy. The next one is The Finest Hotel in Kabul, A People's History of Afghanistan by Liz Doucette, and this one is another one that I'm interested in. It's as far as I understand, it's kind of set, it's basically telling the history of Afghanistan through the lens of this one hotel that has been there the whole time, revolutions and all of that, through the limited lens of this one hotel, which makes it a little bit more digestible. So that sounds like an interesting premise and something I will be interested in. The next one again is one that I'm really interested in, and is Ask Me How It Works, Love in an Open Marriage by Tipa Paul. I don't know if this is a memoir or about someone else's life, but it's basically about an open marriage and how the dynamics of how to navigate that and the polyamory side of things. I think that's very fascinating, so I'm looking forward to that one. The next one is Daughters of the Bamboo Grove, China's Stolen Children and Story of Separated Twins by Barbara Demick. If that sounds familiar, Barbara Demick also wrote Nothing to Envy, which is about North Korea. This one is about two Chinese twins that were separated at birth, and one of them was taken by an American family, and then later in her life they find out what actually happened. They just assume it was one of those girls that were given to adoption because of the one-child policy in China, but because these are twins, I believe that's allowed under that premise. So it's actually a much more complicated case than that, and we followed that, and also how the one-child policy affected Chinese people in general. This sounds reasonably interesting. I'm not jumping at it yet. I would see again if I can find it in a platform I have access to without paying extra. But yeah, it could be something that is interesting. I don't think this sounds like something is going to make the shortlist though. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like the groundbreaking thing that makes the shortlist. The next one is To Exist As I Am, A Doctor's Notes on Recovery and Radical Acceptance by Grace Spencer Green. And as far as I understand, this is about a medical student. She was in the hospital working there, and then something happened, an accident, but it's not, according to the blurb, it's not like a standard accident, and then she becomes paralyzed in her legs, and how she gets to accept that disability and try to continue living her life. This sounds interesting. I'm planning to read this as well. The next one is maybe one of the ones that I'm more interested in, like one of my top list, and is Indignity, A Life Reimagined by Leah Ippy. And this says an imaginative investigation into historical injustice, dignity and truth, told through the story of a family from the fall of the Ottoman Empire to the dawn of communism in the Balkans. Sounds very interesting. It sounds like a family saga, but real and in the Balkans, which all things I want to read about. The next one I'm also very excited about is Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy, which is her memoir. I have read several books by Arundhati Roy. I didn't like The God of Small Things, but I did like The Ministry of Happiness, and I did also like her nonfiction. I think she has very interesting ideas and very radical ideas, and I would love to read her memoir. I have checked, this is in the library. I'm the 7th reservation, so it's probably gonna come in like 4 or 5 months, but I will wait. And then the next one is The Genius of Trees, How Trees Master the Elements and Shape the World by Harriet Riggs, which sounds like it could be very interesting. I have checked in Storycraft though, and it has a fairly low average rating, and most of the reviews that I saw just say that it was too dense and too academic for them, so there is a chance that it still works for me because I'm more used to academic texts like that. I'm willing to give it a try. I think the concept sounds very interesting, and it's also the only like nature writing book in the list, so I will definitely give that one a try. Then the next one is Death of an Ordinary Man by Sarah Perry, and if Sarah Perry sounds familiar, she wrote The Essex Serpent, so probably that's why. And this is about her father-in-law, and it seemed like an ordinary man, and then I think he died of cancer, and it kind of goes through the diagnosis and like the life after diagnosis and death of this man. It sounds very generic to me. I mean, it could be amazing writing because it's Sarah Perry and she's a novelist, so it could be like outstanding writing respect to other non-fictions. But I have also read other Sarah Perry's like fiction books, and I didn't think they were anything particularly special to me. So I don't know, I'm not jumping on that one quite yet. The next one is To Be Young, Gifted and Black, Creativity and Race in the 21st Century by Kadiatu Kane Mason. So this is kind of about, I mean, what it says in the tin, but like it's kind of about art, but it's not really about art. It's more about the experience of doing art while you are black in Britain, I believe, and it does sound interesting. It sounds to me a little bit like, what is this memoir, I will put it here, it was in the first Women's Prize for Nonfiction shortlist, and I really enjoyed it. It was about a poet, Rastafarian father, very strict, and this sounds a little bit like that, not so much from like the family itself, but more from society repressing her. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. The next one is With the Law on Our Side, How the Law Works for Everyone and How We Can Make It Work Better by Lady Hale. Lady Hale seems, I didn't know, but she was the former president of the Supreme Court in Britain, and she wrote about how we can make the law work for women better, as far as I understand, and this gives me the vibes a bit of Sister-in-Law, which was longlisted last year, and I think this appeals to me less than Sister-in-Law because Sister-in-Law had a much more narrow focus, so it was a lot more easy to understand, even if the legal jargon was still very much present. I think this is going to have the legal jargon without the thread to connect things so much. I might be wrong, we will see in the reviews. I'm still interested in reading it, but it's one that I'm going to wait a little bit. Like if I have read everything else that I'm interested in, I will pick this one up, sort of thing. And those were all the books in the list, so yeah, quite a few to go through. So if I go through roughly the list of the things I'm the most interested in, I think the Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy is probably at the top of my list. Ask Me How It Works by Deepa Paul, I think that sounds very interesting. Indignity by Leah Lip sounds could be very good. To Exist As I Am by Grace Spence Green, I think I'm interested in. To Be Young, Gifted and Black by Kaderu Kane Mason as well. The Finest Hotel in Kabul by Lisa Doucette, and then The Genius of Trees by Harriet Lee, With the Law on Our Side by Lady Hale, and Nation of Strangers by Ese Kemelkwan are the ones that I'm kind of planning to read in certain capacity. The other ones, if they make the shortlist, I'll read them, but if they don't, I don't think I'm going to. And I have also checked the ones that I have access to and what I don't have access to, and as I said, they are in that Roy. I have put a hold in my library, but there is only one copy, and there were 6 reservations already when I reserved click reserve, so I'm the 7th one. I'm hoping that now that it's in the long list, maybe they will get a second copy or something and it will be a little bit faster, but it might just happen in like 4 or 5 months. And that's the only one that my library had in English. There was a couple of other ones that my library has in Dutch, but I think I checked how long they were, and I think they're a little bit too long for me to read in Dutch. Like if it was 100 pages, I might have just tried to go through them in Dutch, but if they're like 300-400 pages, I prefer to read them in English. To Exist As I Am and To Be Young, Gifted and Black are in Everand. I don't normally have an Everand subscription, but I occasionally, for things like this, I will get a month of Everand and then I'll read a couple of books that I'm interested in. So that's what I'm doing for those two. So those I have access to immediately, and then Indignity and The Finest Hotel in Kabul I have ordered, and I think they're coming tomorrow. So I would have 4 books that I have access to: Indignity, To Exist As I Am, To Be Young, Gifted and Black, and The Finest Hotel in Kabul. Those I will have access to pretty much immediately. And then, yeah, I think, as I said, The Nation of Strangers, I will wait until maybe it comes out in paperback, or maybe just like see if the prices are a bit lower, or that I don't even think there is like an ebook of it. So I will wait on that one, and I think I will eventually order The Genius of Trees, and maybe With the Law on Our Side. And yeah, ask me how it works as well. It was in the like expensive side of the spectrum, but that one my library has in Dutch, so I'll have to evaluate what I want to do with that. But yeah, at least I have 4 books to start myself with, and my plan for this video is to read as much as I can, or as much of the ones I'm interested in as I can, before the shortlist is announced. And at some point around when the shortlist is going to come out, I will stop this video and I will give you some predictions, and then I will film another video with my reaction to the shortlist and reading whichever books I have left from the shortlist. I think that's the plan, because otherwise if I do everything in one video, it's going to be a very long video, not just to watch but also to film. I will be filming that video for like 2 months, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to divide it into the longest and the shortlist, and this is how it's going to work. In terms of the HRCYED prompts, so the ones that I said I was interested in are 9 books, and I need 7 for the award prompt, but I have to have 1 longlisted, 1 shortlisted, and 1 winner. So I think if I have 9 that I'm interested in and I read, there will be at least 1 that makes the shortlist, and then if I'm reading the shortlist, I eventually will have read the winner inevitably. So that one is I'm not worried about. The one that is a little bit trickier, and the one that I hope I can complete in this video, is the non-fiction challenge. That's only 5 books, but it's they have to be different things, and this list is very memoir heavy and very history heavy and quite art heavy as well. The only science books is the Genius of Trees and the Arts, what's it called, Art Cure, and that one is also about art apart from science. So it's, in terms of topics, I think it's a little bit more homogeneous than other years, but what I'm planning to do is to use To Be Young, Gifted and Black as my memoir prompt, then To Exist As I Am as a medical topic book. I know medical memoir is a subtopic of memoir, but it's also a subtopic of health and medical stuff. So I'm counting as that. Then I'm going to count the Finest Hotel in Kabul as my history book, The Genius of Trees as my nature book, and in Storygraph, Indignity is listed as biography. That is a little bit my plan. Also because apart from The Genius of Trees, I will have access to all of these books tomorrow, so it should be not too difficult to juggle that. The only problem that I'm having is that if the Finest Hotel in Kabul and Indignity, they might also both be considered history, and To Be Young, Gifted and Black and To Exist As I Am could both be counted as memoir. And in the case I decide that those are, I don't feel comfortable using them as different genres of non-fiction, whereas they're too close on genre, there are a few options that I can do. I could use With the Law on Our Side if I read that one, because that one is very much a legal book. And I think Ask Me How It Works could count as a sexual, gender exploration book rather than a memoir or something. But I also have a couple of books that I'm reading outside this challenge that I could swap around, and the first one is A Fearless Organization by Amy Edmondson. I have already read this month. It's kind of social safety research combined with like self-help, which is nothing that is in the list, so that could count well. And the other one that I could use is one that I'm currently reading for a book club, and it's From What Is to What If by Rob Hopkins. I don't even know what kind of genre this will be. It says unleashing the power of imagination to create the future we want. Yeah, I don't know what kind of subgenre of nonfiction this is, but I don't think it's any of the ones that I'm reading for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction. So I could also just use these two as my nonfiction reads. I just wanted to do it with the Women's Prize for Nonfiction because that felt cool, but I can also just change my rules because they're my rules. So yeah, that is the plan. In terms of like plans, life plans, today is Wednesday and tomorrow is Thursday. I think I'm not working tomorrow. It's a long story, but basically my contract is running out at the end of the month and I have holidays left over. So I think I have 2 weeks and 1 day, which means that I can take Thursday off and then take the 2 weeks after. I'm for sure going to be taken, but I think I have an extra day apart from those 2 weeks, so I think I can take tomorrow off. But the HR in my organization is struggling at the moment, and they are supposed to give us like our budget of holidays like 2 weeks ago, and we're still waiting. So I don't exactly have a number, so I'm not sure if I can take them tomorrow off. I wrote them an email today being like, can you please tell me my hours, because I don't know if I can take tomorrow off, and I don't want to take Friday off because normally at work we have like a Cookie Friday moment, and I was planning to use that as my goodbye moment, to bring cookies and be like goodbye, farewell sort of moment. So I don't want to take Friday off, so I was planning to take Thursday off, but I don't know if I can take it off. I think I have a couple of things I want to finish anyway, so I might just do those couple of things. It will probably take me an hour, and then I'll just take it off, because well, after that I do have 2 weeks off. We're going to Barcelona next week, so I don't know how much I will be able to read and film and all of that, but then the week after that I am fully off. Just, it's going to be nice because Alex is going to be in school and I'm going to be off, so I would have lots of things. I also have little things that I want to do around the house, so probably that will take a lot longer than I expect them to. Like I want to hang some shelf and do some sewing stuff, you know, those kind of things. But I hope I will still have more reading time as well, and I will be less tired in the evening because I will not be working. And also, after those 2 weeks, I still don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a job. I'm looking for jobs. There is one that I might. I had a couple of interviews and they said they have to go through the backlog of applicants and then let me know. And that was a week ago, and I haven't heard anything from them yet. They said it's probably going to be a couple of weeks, so I haven't lost hope yet. But if they say no, I don't I don't have anything else. I'll just be looking for jobs, so I might have a lot more than 2 weeks off. We will see. It will be weird. It would be the first time in my life that I'm unemployed, so I'm a little bit stressed about that. But we will talk about that when it comes. So for now, I'm just going to enjoy myself and read. And I'm hoping to finish the book I'm reading before I actually start with the Women's Prize for Nonfiction long list. But I might intersperse stuff because the things I'm reading are physical and ever and I can have on the go. So I might sometimes swap from one to the other just because in some situations I can access digital more easily and some situations I can access physical more easily. So yeah, I'll keep you updated. Hello everyone, so it's Monday morning and I did not manage to finish the finance hotel in Kabul yesterday. I have like 60 pages left, which shouldn't be a problem today because I'm not working, I'm on holidays and Alex is on daycare. But I actually do have a substantial to-do list today. There are a lot of things that I have been putting off because I don't have time and today is the day. I have to run a number of errands. I also need to apply to a number of jobs, and I did sign up for like an online course in project management that I have to start, get a start on. And also yesterday I did start another book. This was not my plan, but Alex was not feeling fantastic yesterday, so in the afternoon she just kind of fell asleep on my lap. And I was locked there for like an hour and I couldn't reach my book, so I started another book in my phone, and that was To Exist As I Am by Grace Spence Green, which is the medical non-fiction memoir in the list, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's I have only read 2 chapters, like 30 pages, but she talks about what happened to her, but also she talks about how everyone feels entitled to ask her what happened to her, and the way that a lot of the doctors treated her as something to fix and something like sick. She realized that she had also been doing that, and she's trying to advocate to change that vision of disabled people in medicine, which I thought it was very interesting perspective because I've never thought about that. I'm lucky enough I'm not disabled, so I don't have to deal with all of the ableism that comes with it. And I had never thought about how even doctors are not trained on that, and she's trying to change that, and that was very cool, and I'm very interested to continue reading it. But yeah, I'm going to first focus on this, try to finish this morning. I wanted to go to the bike shop to take Alex's bike for maintenance, because we bought it 4 months ago and it has, or 3.5 months ago, and it has a 4-month guarantee. So if we go before the guarantee runs out, the maintenance is free, so might as well. So I wanted to go early in the morning, so maybe it can be done by the end of the day. But it's supposed to be like raining quite heavily in the morning. It's not yet, but it's going to start in like an hour, which is exactly when the shop opens. So we will see about that. Hello everyone, it has been almost a week since I spoke to you. We are back from Barcelona. We came back yesterday, and I thought I will just give you some updates of what has been happening, because a lot of things have happened. So first of all, I went book shopping, and as you can probably have seen from the previous clips, I got 3 books. The first one is No One Writes Letters Anymore by Yang Eun-jin, and this is about sort of the it's kind of talking to the analog trend that is going on around these days, trying to not depend on like digital stuff so much. Sounds interesting. It's short, so excited about that. The second one is Calabobos by Luis Mario. Every time I go to Spain I try to buy a Spanish book, because I have no idea what's popular there anymore, and this is the one that I picked this time. And it's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the like drizzle rain that happens in the north of Spain. I'm from the north of Spain, and exactly where this book is from, where the author is from, and so it kind of talks to that that landscape and that place, and I think that could be appealing to me. And the last one I picked up is Nation of Strangers by S.E. Temelkuran, which is kind of talking about people that don't have a place to call home anymore. Not necessarily homeless as in they're living in the streets, but more like they don't belong to anywhere in particular. And this is part of the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, and I started in Barcelona and I have now just finished it, so I will talk about this in a minute. But first I want to talk to you about the book I was reading when I left, which is To Exist As I Am by Grace Spence Green. And Grace Spence Green was studying medicine when a man jumped from a 3rd floor of a shopping mall and hit her, and so she became paralyzed from the waist down. And this mostly follows her memoir, like going back into feeling a little bit more like herself, getting back to her life, studying as a doctor, and also a lot about how people treat her after her injury, and a lot of advocacy for the disabled people and so on. I'm sorry if you hear noises. My neighbors upstairs are moving in and they are building lots of furniture today, so sorry if you hear that, but it's the only time that I had left to film this, so I'm just going to try to deal with the noise later when I'm editing. Anyway, yeah, so this book was really powerful, I thought, and really honest about things, and the way that people treat disabled people if they are less, the kind of language that is used in medicine and in like real everyday life, and the way that people normally see disabled people as less of a person or like someone to be fixed, rather than just seeing them as a person with these needs that they have. And she talks a little bit about what kind of language she personally prefers, and obviously this is a bit of a spectrum on what each person wants to be called and which person, like, yeah. Obviously different people need different things. She obviously doesn't have invisible disability because she's using a wheelchair, so in that sense she says she has a little bit more of a advantage in the way that people don't question her using disabled parking, disabled toilets, whatever accommodations she needs, but at the same time those accommodations are often not available, and so she has to deal with that kind of thing. She talks about the fact, like, the way that she needs to go to the toilet. She needs a catheter instead of like just peeing because of the way her body works, and how alienating that can be when you cannot properly use a toilet and you cannot even like pee like the standard way or whatever. Yeah, so it was very eye-opening, and it was also very interesting to see the ways that she describes her needs. There is a point in which she said she doesn't strive for independence anymore, she strives for autonomy, and she strives for interdependence. And she also talks about how the care that she needs is anti-capitalist because it's not producing any value, it's just something that people exchange out of kindness and out of love. And for her right now, she knows that she needs people to do certain things, and so for her the most important thing is having the autonomy to choose when she's helped and choose how she is helped. And that is something that she recommends people do everywhere, that you just ask, do you need help, or how can I help you, rather than start pushing a wheelchair somewhere without even knowing where they're going, that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it was very, very well written, very well constructed, very informative. And I also think that the fact that she is a doctor gives her a position to explain certain things much better than maybe another wheelchair user might, because she sees things from the other side, and she knows what she was learning before she had the accident and what she learned after, and how doctors talk about disabled people and wheelchair use and stuff like that. And the fact that they often talk about wheelchairs as someone that is wheelchair bound, that is confined to a wheelchair, rather than seeing the wheelchair as something that allows you the independence and the freedom to move around, which you would otherwise not do because you can't move your legs, for example. So yeah, very good, very eye-opening, very deep thoughts about the whole disability situation. So I will really recommend, and I don't know if it's like innovative enough to make the shortlist, but I would like it to. So we will see. And then the other one that I finished, as I said, is Nation of Strangers by Setem Kulan, and this is written very interestingly. The author is a journalist and a novelist, and in this book she talks about the feeling of not having a place you belong to, and it's a heavy memoir aspect to this as well. So the author left Turkey because the regime didn't agree with her, and has been living in different places in Europe for the last 10 years or so. And she talks about the fact that she doesn't like the word foreigner or immigrant or something like that, because it kind of alienates people and it just calls people strangers because she thinks that that's a much more approachable term, and so she writes these completely as letters, and she starts always like "Dear Stranger," and then she talks about a certain aspect of her life in that particular moment and how she associates that with the feeling of having a home or not having a home. And she made some very interesting points, especially as someone that doesn't live in her home country, if you want to call it, birth country, and someone that has moved around, and not all of the things were applicable to me because there was also a lot of talk about residence permits and visas and all of that, and even though I have had to do that sometimes in my life, it's not something I have had to deal a whole lot with, just because I have a European passport and I mostly have lived in Europe. I did have to do that at some point when I went to the US or when I went to Kenya or when my husband came here, but it's not as much as what it is portrayed in this book, and the uncertainty of can I stay where I am and never kind of put roots anywhere or unpack your things completely, because you never know when the next thing is gonna come up and if you're going to be able to stay there or you have to move because you don't have the visa you were expecting, that kind of thing. So she had some very interesting thoughts about that, and also not so much about how people treated her as an immigrant, because I think in that sense she is in a quite privileged position. She had a lot of recognition and she didn't have to struggle so much with that side of things, but she does talk to some people in this book that did have to deal with that. Like there was, I don't remember where he was from, but she talked to this man that he was from a country in Africa and he was a brain surgeon, but after a while he stopped talking about him being a brain surgeon because nobody cared about that, and they just wanted him to fit in the box of you are an immigrant and therefore you're poor and you came here to look for a better life because you couldn't maintain yourself in your country and blah blah blah, all the things that people often think about when someone comes here. So yeah, in that sense, very interesting read. There were a couple of plot points that she came across as quite unlikable and quite like privileged in some ways, and yeah, not super aware and not super, just trying to show off sometimes. So there was, for example, one part in which she was in some sort of panel and she was discussing the fact that she was homeless, but again, not homeless as in not having a house to live in, but in the sense of not having a place that you belong to that you can call home, because where she grew up she couldn't come back to because of the political situation, and she couldn't lay roots anywhere else because she didn't have the visa and the security that she was going to stay there for very long. But she was still calling herself homeless, and there was a guy in this panel that challenged her on that, like, you're not homeless, I am homeless, I do sleep in the street sometimes, I will go into empty houses and I sleep in empty houses that I find around because I don't have a place to sleep. And then yeah, so things like that is like the way that she sometimes uses language is a little bit privileged, and there's many times also that she just wants to discuss a concept, but before she discussed this concept she's like, oh, I was in this conference in Milan and this came up to me, rather than just stating what she was thinking about. So it just felt a little bit like she wanted to show off how cool and how troubled she is sometimes. I don't know. I didn't like that very much. So yeah, that there are some interesting conversations, but some of it was a little bit too pretentious for me. And I think she was privileged, and she, even though I understand completely that feeling of not belonging and how hard that can be, and all of the visa stuff and the stress, a lot of my friends go through that, and I understand that that's a very hard thing to go through. I still think that she sometimes fails to recognize the privilege that she has of at least having enough to eat and a place to sleep, and not having to worry about all of those things on top of not having a visa. So yeah, I was not as enthralled with this as I was hoping to be, and yeah, it is what it is. I didn't dislike it. I think it was worth reading, but I think there were some things that were just not clicking with me. And in terms of the shortlist, I think it might make it. I hope there are other books in this list that are better than that can make it to the shortlist. But because of the topic and the urgency of some of the things that she talks about Trump and immigration, which is a very relevant topic, and I think the last letter was from April last year, something like that. And she was already talking about how Trump was talking about immigration, and obviously it has gotten a lot worse since then. So I think because of that, this might make it to the shortlist, but I think as a book in itself, it was not as good as I was hoping it would be. So that makes 3 books read for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction Longlist. The next one I'm going to be picking up is Indignity by Leah Ivy, which is supposed to be kind of like a family saga of her family in Albania. This sounds very interesting, and I want to know what's all about, so I will be reading this next. Hello everyone. So it is a lot later than last time I talked to you. It has been quite a few days. I don't even know how many, but it is Saturday today. It's the last day of February, and I am reading Indignity by Leah V for a few days now. A couple of days. I'm on page 167, and I'm liking this. This is one of those books that plays with the line between fiction and non-fiction. This is obviously on the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, but because it follows the history of Albania and the story of these particular people in Albania, which are family of the author, quite closely and quite thoroughly. But also we do have a lot of places, like a lot of places where there are conversations between those people, and those are conversations that would have happened 100 years ago, if not more. So obviously they cannot be 100% correct or real, because even if those people are alive, who remembers what they said 100 years ago, or like someone said 100 years ago? That doesn't really work like that. So yeah, this is like a very retold, fictionalized take on what actually really happened in Albania, and I have learned a lot of facts, like her family originates from Salonika, which I think is Thessaloniki in Greece, and at that point in time the borders were being redefined. So there is a map at the beginning that explains kind of how that went. So yeah, like at some parts of Greece became Albania and stuff like that. So her family comes from that region where things were a bit muddled, and how her grandmother moved to Albania when she was younger, and her husband and her father, they were kind of relatively important figures in the whole history of the region. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't know if it was what I was expecting, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. I just don't know how, if I would put this in the non-fiction category. I think this, to me, reads more like fiction, even though if all the events and all the names are correct, it's a little bit like some of the books that Benjamin Labatut writes. They are about real people, about real things that happen, but obviously he's imagining things. And the author has more information on these particular people because they are her family, so she knows their stories. She can ask some of them questions about what happened, but it is still fictionalized. So that's the only complaint I have so far, the fact that this is non-fiction and it reads more like fiction to me, but I think that would be appealing to a lot of people. So I'm happy that this can be a good entry point for people that are interested in non-fiction but mostly read fiction. And I think that is also going to give it an edge in the price in terms of going into the shortlist, because this longlist was quite history heavy, and I think this one is one that stands out among many other history non-fictions out there. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I still have half of the book to go, and I'll let you know when that happens. I'm hoping I can finish it maybe tomorrow night. It has been quite a weird week this past week, because I have been trying to find my footing with not working, but also Alex is in school, so I'm kind of at home a lot of the time. I'm keeping myself busy. I'm looking for jobs, and I'm doing like a project management course online, and I had a lot of errands to run, and I had to go to university to give back my laptop and wrap up a few things from my job. So I still have things to do, and it has only been 3 days that I have been in that state, and I still don't have a job. So I am next week, I guess I feel like next week I'm officially starting to be unemployed, which is not technically still true, because next month I will be still paid a salary, but that's the point where I don't have any, I don't know, it feels like my current job has ended now, and I'm in this uncertainty period from next week, and I wish I did have a plan, even if it's starting a job in 1 or 2 months, because then I can actually enjoy the free time, whereas now I'm just like very unsettled. But I do still have some plans next week. I signed up for a career fair, and I might go visit a friend of mine that lives in another city, and we have not so many opportunities to see each other because we both have children, and we live like an hour and a half from each other, so it's not always the easiest to go see each other. And I told her, well, since I have the time, probably I can come visit you, and I have a couple of errands that I still have to do, and a couple of still lessons from that class online that I can do. So I do have some stuff that I can get on next week, but yeah, it does feel a little bit weird, but I would expect that among all of that I do still have a little bit more time to read. And I have received my copies of The Art Cure and The Genius of Trees, so I have those in my possession, which I think are the last two books I'm going to read for this vlog. I have another Women's Prize for Nonfiction book coming to me as well, but at this point I think I'm in a point in which if I read those two books I would have completed all of the HRCYED course that I got completed for the shortlist is announced, so I think I'm going to just read those and wrap this video up. I think that's the plan for now, and that would have been 6 books, so I think it's enough for a vlog, 6 books. But yeah, that's all to say. I'm halfway through this. I hope I finish it by tomorrow night, and I will update you when I do. Hello everyone, it's Monday morning and I'm here to say that indeed last night I finished Indignity by Lea IP, and this, I liked it. I think it was a very interesting way to tell the story of Albania in the 30s and 40s, and the history itself is very interesting because you have the Ottoman Empire, the Nazis, and the communists, and it's all a little bit of a big mess, but I thought it was told in a very engaging way. The only gripe that I have with this book is how it leaves accuracy for the sake of storytelling a little bit, because there are parts like the prologues of parts and the intermezzos where we actually follow the author kind of researching. Mostly she focuses on her grandmother, but obviously because of the people around her she also researched her great-grandfather, who was president of Albania at some point, and she also researched her husband and other people around her, and so we follow mostly, in those parts, we follow the author trying to find out things about these people, and then on the other parts she has kind of built a narrative to fill the holes, and she does have personal knowledge of what's happening as well, because it's her family, so she doesn't only rely on archives to know the life of these people, but yeah, that's the less, let's say, scientific way of going about it. So she builds a narrative to fill in the holes that she has, and that, even though it makes the book quite readable and engaging and all of that, it also raises question of how accurate and how truth everything that she's saying is, at least to me. So yeah, in that sense there is also not really references or anything, and she talks about visiting the archives, but she doesn't refer to any particular text or anything, so her research was kind of private more than publicly available documents, and she is a professor, I think, in the London School of Economics, so she knows how to research, but still it felt a little bit I don't know how much of this is true, even though again the narrative was very engaging. But I think it's going to do very well, because I think it's a very engaging book. I think a lot of people are going to like how this is told, and it's a history that I don't think many people know about, but I think it's told in a very approachable way, and it's interesting. So yeah, I do think that this is going to make the shortlist, but it's also not maybe the most accurate book. It's one of those that it's in the verge of fiction. Which brings me to what I'm going to be reading next. I haven't started yet, but I think I'm going to pick up The Art Cure by Daisy Francourt. I love this cover. The colorful part is shiny and the other one is matte, and also the edge is also colorful. I think it's a very beautiful book, and both this one and The Genius of Trees, which are the only two that I'm going to be reading for this video, have a very healthy chunk of references. So I'm happy about that. At least there's some books that have references in this non-fiction. I am craving something a little bit more scientific for a non-fiction prize. So yes, I am going to pick up this one. I have very little plans today. Alex is in school the whole day, and she also has daycare. I will go pick her up relatively early-ish today, but still, I want to go see if I can get my watches fixed, because both of them are broken, and it's incredibly difficult apparently to find someone to fix them. The only places that I found so far are like very expensive jewelries that only do like Rolexes and stuff. So I'm gonna try a different place today and see if they can fix them. But I think I will do that in the afternoon, because I have 2 places in my list of maybe places, but one of them only opens in the afternoon, so I'm just gonna do that in the afternoon. So yes, not a lot to do today. We will see how it goes, and I'll let you know how I get on with this when I have read a little bit. So it's Tuesday morning. It has been a day since I started The Art Cure by Daisy Francoeur, and this is kind of what I expected. I am on page 135, and it's basically going through all of the kind of examples of how art can improve your health, and specifically things like patients with dementia get better when they are played music, or there was an example of a kid that had some neurological condition, and he improved when he started doing magic. So it's very broad, arts in a very broad spectrum, like from magic, music, painting, sculpturing, dancing, all kinds of things like that. And it just goes through a lot of examples and some statistics about how they help and what is kind of like the best way to use them. And yeah, it's kind of what I expected. I was hoping for a little bit more like statistics, and there is a scientific approach to it, but there's the way it's written is mostly on single cases, and I think that's done for the narrative of the book to be better. I think there's a lot of science, psychology authors that do that, but I was hoping for a little bit more of a statistical, scientific way of looking at things. Not to say that I'm not enjoying this, but it's just my preference. But yeah, I'm about half of the way through the book, and I might finish it today, I might finish it tomorrow. At the end, I did not do anything yesterday. I basically became a couch potato and binge watch Drive to Survive. So that was my day yesterday. I think I needed it, but the weather is really nice this week, so I do want to be a little bit more active on the rest of the week. It was just like I haven't done that in years, so I needed a day to just exist. And still I did read a little bit of this, and I did go through my wardrobe and Alex's wardrobe and like change things to summer and got rid of the things that don't fit anymore, fix some of the things that were broken, that kind of thing, which took me half an hour, but still I felt like at least I've done something. And today it's around 9 now. Alex is in school, and I think around 10 I'm leaving to go to Amsterdam. There is a job fair in the afternoon that I'm planning to go. I have tickets for, free tickets for, so I'm hoping to go there in the afternoon. And I thought, since I'm going to Amsterdam, I might as well pass by the Waterstones and some of the bookstores there, because why not? So I think I'm going to go a little bit earlier than I need to just do that and have a little bit of a stroll around Amsterdam. And hopefully Alex is okay and doesn't need me, because I will be a little bit farther away than I would like, but it is what it is. Yeah, and that's basically my whole plan for today, is just going to Amsterdam. So yeah, I have to send a package before doing that, and I want to take a shower and put nice clothes on for the interview. So, well, not interview, but for the career fair, and like make sure that I have everything that I might need. But I still have an hour, so I think that's not gonna take me an hour probably, so I might be able to read one more chapter of this before I leave, and obviously I will be able to read in the train as well. So I think that it is very possible that I do finish this today, and if not, I will probably finish it tomorrow. So it's later in the same day, it's almost 9 p.m. and I have updates for you. The first update is that I finished Art Cure by Daisy Francourt, and this was interesting. I think I liked it. It talks a lot about the way that arts can help everyday people to be healthier in general, and like the different aspects of art that might be more or less beneficial. Like, for example, it is more beneficial to go out on a museum or a painting class than watch a movie or at home, because there are several aspects of art, like the social aspect, the like creativity aspect, and like all kinds of art could be beneficial, but some are more than others. And that was interesting to read about. The other thing that she mentioned several times, but I think people might still ignore it, is that art is not a cure, despite the title. Is not a cure for things. It's like a thing that improves your health overall, like doing exercise or eating well. It's not something that is going to cure cancer if you have cancer, and it's not going to make you a super healthy human per se. It's going to make you a healthier human than you were if you didn't have art. But that doesn't mean that it like completely eradicates every illness that you might ever have. And it seems to me, I mean, the book does not say that, but it seems to me that it does help with more neurological things more than with physical things, even though it also talks about diabetes and some certain paralysis and stuff. But I think in general it would be more helpful for things like dementia, Alzheimer's, but also depression and things like that. One thing that the book didn't talk about per se, but I was thinking about when I was reading the book, is that we often, if you think a lot of the artists, especially like painters, for example, or musicians, a lot of them are depressed and a lot of them end up going crazy or taking their lives, historically. And I think it didn't comment much on it. There was like a couple of passing sentences about it, but when I was reading this, I was thinking that maybe it's not that the arts make these people crazy, but it's like these people are struggling mentally, and art is the way they have found to cope with it. And that's why there are so many of these people that are artists, because they need to cope with it, otherwise they will just kill themselves. And art is the way that they found to cope with it and keep them alive for as long as they lived. And yeah, as I said, that's not in the book, that's my brain when reading the book. But yeah, I liked it. I think some of the things were a little bit over exaggerated based on what she admittedly said were the benefits of art. Like, there is a section at the end that tells you the things that you could do to introduce art to your life, And I mean, in principle they're fine, but I felt like it was a little bit like yeah, some people do that amount of exercise but most people don't, so that's like the highest level of art that you can do, but it's not necessarily what everyone can or should be doing. It's just like the way that she wrote it felt like it couldn't be for everybody. It was for a specific type of person that had the energy and the resources to do all of those things that she said. And she says like if you can do it with exercise, you can do it with art as well, and I get that comparison, but not everybody can do that amount of exercise, or not everybody can do that amount of art either. Just as a aside, yeah, it felt a little bit in parts over-aggrandizing, but then I think she did a decent job of bringing herself more than us down to the ground and be like, look, this is not a magic cure. It's something that could help, but it's not a magic cure. And I think she had to remind herself of that several times during the book. But yeah, overall I liked it. I think it makes a point of how arts and which kind of art are the most beneficial and inspiring to interact with, and it did inspire me to think about my relationship with art and how I can include it in my life more. And another thing that this said that I think I also was thinking about is that it makes a point that multitasking reduces the effectiveness of art a lot. Like for example, putting music in the background where you're doing something is not the same as intentionally sitting and listening to music in a concert especially. And I think I do a lot of mindless consuming of art, like having something in the background or reading a book where I'm out and about, or like with something in the background, or like multitasking in that way. And I think I have already been thinking about that for a while, but I think I do want and need to be more mindful with the things I consume. That means that I would consume less things, but that shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, lots of thoughts about this, lots of sparking of ideas, but also a little bit doubtful of some of the claims, or the not necessarily claims, like it's quite scientific, it has a lot of numbers, it has a couple of graphs, but on the like self-reflection of how much art actually helped on some of the situations. Like for example, there was a part about how dancing and singing was very good for the body, and I was like, yeah, but like how much of that is the art side of things and how much of that is like the physical side of that, you know? So yeah, some of those things were a little bit dodgy in the science, but overall I think it was a good book, and I do think that it's probably going to make it to the shortlist because there's only 2 science books, and I think this one, based on the long list, I think this one appeals to the judges more. I think the other one feels a little bit like someone told them there is no scientific nature books in the list, so you should include some, and they picked one, and that's the one that ended up in the long list, whereas this feels like something that they are more likely to have chosen themselves because they thought it was very interesting. And talking about the other science book in the list, that's The Genius of Trees by Harriet Riggs, and this is the one that I'm going to read next. as I said, it's about 9 p.m. It's Tuesday, and so I have like about an hour before I go to bed to start on this one. And this one also has a very healthy chunk of references. So the book is actually just over 200 pages. So I think this is not also going to take a long time to read. And in other news, today was nice. The weather was very nice, and I liked to have a little bit of time away in Amsterdam, and the job fair was also like, it felt very inclusive because it was a woman in STEM event, so there were just a lot of women overall, and it felt very like sisterhood like event. And there was a couple of guys from some of the companies, but still it felt like the sisterhood, and I really enjoyed that. And there were a couple of companies that sounded interesting, so I have marked them and I gave them my details, and hopefully they will be in contact at some point. But also one of the jobs that I had applied and I had a couple of interviews for have finally offered me a job. It's not the job I applied for, but it's a job. And that takes a massive weight off my shoulders, having something. It's not ideal because it is in Eindhoven, which is like 2 hours away from here, so commuting like 4 or 5 hours every day I have to go there. It's a lot, so less than ideal, and I'm still looking for jobs mainly for that reason. But it's good to know that at least there's something that I can work with, and it's going to be difficult, but it's also better than not having a job. So that's where we stand. At least I have something, and I'm very happy about it. And I think I have been so stressed and so focused on like checking LinkedIn every day and all of that. I think I'm going to take it easy the rest of the week, and I'm just not going to look for jobs, at least until the end of the week, which gives me a lot of more chill time. With that said, I do have an interview with them, or like a talk with them, a little bit more about the job that I will get there, and like the conditions and working out the details. I have that on Friday. I also made a doctor's appointment for Alex on Friday because she's still having a lot of troubles, and I was hoping that she was getting out of that by herself, and she's getting a little bit better, but not good enough that I feel comfortable just letting it be for the time being. I think she needs some help, so I did make an appointment for her to try to solve the issues that she's having. And on tomorrow I also have to go to the dentist. I was supposed to have that appointment next week, but they called me to change it for this week, and I am very happy that this is happening because it was interfering with some plans that I wanted to do next week, and now it's not. So I'm very happy with that. So yeah, those are the plans for the rest of the week. I have a couple of errands that I want to run, but those are the main issues that I wanted to solve. And I think another thing that I have to do next week is to figure out childcare for Alex. If I start a new job, I have to first have the details of what is expected of me, but having to commute so far, I am assuming that I will need some sort of daycare on top of what we have right now, so I have to figure that out once I know the details. But yeah, a very eventful day, but also I think a very productive and successful one, and I will update you on this one when I read a little bit more.
Hello everyone, it's Thursday afternoon. I'm about to go pick up Alex from school, but before I do that I wanted to talk about The Genius of Trees by Harriet Riggs because I finished it today. I wanted to read a lot more of this yesterday, but I didn't, so I did just sit down the whole day and finish this. And this is basically talking about the ways in which trees shape our world, and from the way that they sort of create soil, to the way that they protect certain animals and interact with animals and fungi and all sorts of other things, also people. Yeah, basically every chapter just goes through a different aspect in which the trees interact with and shape in some way. And I found there were some interesting points. There were also some points about like women in science and things like that. And I think this is a good example of this kind of writing. There's quite a lot of books like this about trees, but also about fungi and how we interact with them and the different things that they do to support each other and to support other forms of life and things that we can gain from them, things like that. So there's a few number of those kind of books, and this is one of them, and I think it's a good example of it. I did find the information a little bit scattered, not in the way that the chapters were organized was good, but I think within the chapter there was just a lot of very small examples, and so at some point when you finish the book, it's like I don't remember half of the things that they said because they were such small examples. We didn't elaborate on each of them a great deal, I would say, and it also jumps from different species and different countries, and it's a little bit jumbled in that way. So that makes me less inclined to like reread this or anything, because I didn't get like that burst of information from it of like I really learned something, and as I said, it's kind of similar to other books of the same nature, even though it has slightly different perspective, but it feels more like an incremental step of knowledge rather than a completely new thing that is super exciting. So it was okay. I also think that if you look at the long list as a whole, it has like a theme and it has like a trend, and this does not fit. This is the only book I think in the list that does not fit within the rest of the books. So I do think that maybe the judges were recommended to include something natural, and this is what they pick, but they don't really personally think that this is like super special, or not that it's bad, it's a good book, but it's just not like, I don't know, life-changing. So yeah, I think it was fine. I'm glad I read it. I don't think I'm going to keep it or recommend it on unless there's a very specific person that really wants to read this. It's not one of my auto recommends. But yeah, I enjoyed it enough, and I'm glad I read it. And now I think we can move on from this vlog and this challenge, because I have completed my non-fiction square of the HRCYED prompts. I also don't have any more books from the long list to read. I have one coming to me and one that is coming as well at some point, but not in the immediate future, so I think this is a good point to finish this vlog. And as I said, I completed my non-fiction square for HRCYED, and I obviously cannot say if I have completed the award square so far, because I don't know what is in the shortlist and what's the winner, but I would have expected that at least. I have read 6 books, and so you have to read 7 for that square, and I might not have read the winner, but I have read 6 of the 7 books, and they will fall somewhere in the shortlist or the long list, depending on what happens. So I'm counting it as 6 out of 7. And in terms of my predictions of what's going to make the shortlist, I think the Arc here, Nation of Strangers and Indignity, from what I have read, have a good chance of making the long list. But there's also like to exist as I am, I would love to see in the shortlist. And The Genius of Trees could make it just because it's the only more sciencey book in the list. And then I haven't read Ask Me How It Works or To Be Young, Gifted and Black yet. But those are two books I'm excited about and I think could be potentials for the shortlist as well. And then from the things that I haven't read, I think the ones that are going to make it for sure, it's Finding Albion and Mother Mary Comes to Me. I low-key think that Mother Mary Comes to Me is going to win. Because so far in this prize, the winners have been widely agreed upon good books, and Naomi Klein won the first one, so they are also not necessarily looking for something completely new and crazy. So I think Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy would be probably a good choice to put as the winner, with something that most people would agree is probably good and someone that is well known and respected. So I low-key think that Mother Mary Comes to Me might win. And then Finding Albion I'm not really interested in, but I think it's one that a lot of people were interested in, and I also think it's one that I have heard very good things about, so it probably will make it. I don't know, we will see. But those are kind of my predictions of what might or might not make it, and I'm very excited for the shortlist, and I will let you know what happens with that when it comes. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. I know it's very long, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and on the next video, bye!